Kell Brook says that he's getting signals from Bob Arum and Crawford's team that the Terence Crawford fight is there to be made. I've spoken about this several times in the past. I think it's a good fight. I think that Kell Brook, despite the fact he's always been a big welterweight and he's been campaigning at 154 for his past couple bouts, correct me if I'm wrong, his last bout was definitely 154, but the one before that, was it a catch weight? Was it also 154? And Eddie Hearn has also been saying that he wants Kell Brook to compete at 154, not 147. I just think the guys at 154 are too big for Kell Brook. Not just their physical size, but also, some of them have got skills. I still think his best bet is down at 147. Now, I'm not saying he beats Terence Crawford at all, but I would give him more chance against Terence Crawford than, let's say, Charlo at 154. Because, again, Crawford is more skilled than Charlo at 154, but Brook has certain physical advantages over Crawford. He's a naturally bigger man. He's strong. He probably hits harder. He's fought plenty of times at welterweight. In terms of height and reach, there's probably not that much difference between Kell Brook and Terence Crawford. I suspect Brook is probably going to be the physically stronger man, although some people will say that Kell Brook's going to be drained if he fights at 147 again. I suspect that this whole Kell Brook's drained and he's never been himself at 147 is, I don't want to say it's not true at all, but I think people put too much emphasis on it, because Kell Brook himself has said in the past that he feels okay when he gets in the ring. He does have strength. I think he's allowed people to put this idea that he's drained in his own mind so that he can then use it as a crutch when he loses to people like Errol Spence, for example. Because if you listen to his post-fight interview following the Spence fight, he said he was okay in there. He said he made the weight okay and he could fight a welterweight again. It's the likes of Eddie Hearn and maybe people in his team telling him, oh no, it's the weight and this, that, and the other. And then when people are telling you this and you subconsciously and even consciously want a crutch anyway, you want a way to build your confidence back up, then you'll say, okay, oh, maybe I was drained. Maybe that's why. Oh yeah, maybe it wasn't the body shots that Errol Spence was hitting me with. Maybe it was the weight coming down from the Golovkin fight. Yeah, that's what it was. I never quite bought that. I think that Errol Spence beats any version of Kell Brook. I mean, Errol Spence had to come to the UK, fight in a much colder climate than he's used to, against or in front of a partisan crowd who were very hostile. It was his first world title fight. I mean, he had to go into the Lion's Den, Errol Spence. That wasn't him at 100% more than likely, but yet he still delivered the good, and he had a tough start in the fight. He was getting hit with good shots from Kell Brook. A lot of fighters in that situation, thousands of miles away from home, they would have caved in. Errol Spence didn't. Very mentally strong guy. I know he's turned out to be a bit of an idiot as a human being, but in a boxing sense, very mentally tough guy. So, yeah, I never quite bought into the whole Kell Brook's weight or being weight drained is the reason for the Errol Spence defeat. And I still, right now, think that Kell Brook can get down to 147 and be competitive. I personally think so. I think if there's an issue for Kell Brook right now, it's lack of competitive rounds at a high level over the past few years. I think that's more of an issue than the weight. That's my personal view. And something I mentioned in a previous video is the fact that Kell Brook says he's now making the weight a lot better than he ever used to, because he used to blow up in between fights. Now, I haven't seen Kell Brook since the current situation in the world that's going on at the moment, because a lot of boxing gyms are closed and fighters, maybe they are sitting on the sofa and eating pizza and stuff like that rather than staying in condition. I hope Kell Brook has found some way to keep himself active and keep his weight down. Because if he has, then Terence Crawford fight, I think, is interesting. I would like to see Kell Brook take one fight prior to facing a Terence Crawford, just to sharpen himself up a little bit more, and then get in there with Bud and see what he can do. Crawford would certainly be the favorite, but we've seen Crawford is vulnerable. He has been buzzed in several fights in his career, including one of his recent fights. Kell Brook, big guy, strong guy. Is Kell Brook the hardest puncher that Terence Crawford would have faced in his career so far? Probably. So let's see what you can do with him. I think if the PBC welterweights are freezing Terence Crawford out, then Kell Brook is the best alternative outside of PBC. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.